Today I'm going to talk about adding, subtracting, and multiplying polynomials. When you have all these steps in a problem, you have to make sure you follow the order of operations when you do these. So you're going to do parentheses first, exponents, then multiplying or dividing, but in these cases you're not going to have any dividing, and then you're going to add or subtract. So the first example we're going to look at is 9x squared plus 4x minus 2 squared. So in this problem I have parentheses with an exponent of 2, so I need to deal with that first. Since there is a binomial inside of the parentheses, you cannot distribute the 2, so you're going to have to write 4x minus 2 twice. In order to multiply 4x minus 2 times 4x minus 2, you're multiplying a binomial times a binomial. So to multiply a binomial times a binomial, you're going to use the box. So I have 4x and negative 2, and I have 4x and negative 2. 4x times 4x is going to be 16x squared. 4x times negative 2 is negative 8x. Negative 2 times 4x is negative 8x. And negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. Then when you're done, you're going to write your answer out. So I have 9x squared plus 16x squared. I'm going to add my like terms together of negative 8x and negative 8x, which is going to make negative 16x plus 4. Then your next step is to look at your number in front of your parenthesis. If that number in front of your parenthesis is 1, positive 1, then you don't have to distribute positive 1. You then just look for like terms. So in this case, I don't have to distribute anything because it's a positive 1. If it was something other than 1, I would have to distribute that number. So since it's just 1, now I'm going to look for like terms. So my like terms are 9x squared and 16x squared, which makes 25x squared. I don't have a like term with negative 16x, so I'm just going to write negative 16x, and then I have plus 4. So my answer is going to be 25x squared minus 16x plus 4. The next example we're going to look at is 5x minus 2 minus parentheses 4x minus 7 times 3x plus 2. So when I look here, I'm going to multiply what's in parentheses first, which is 4x minus 7 and 3x plus 2. I'm multiplying a binomial times a binomial, so I'm going to use the box. So I have 4x and negative 7, 3x, and positive 2. When I multiply 3x and 4x, I get 12x squared, because when you multiply, you add your exponents. 3x times negative 7 is negative 21x. 2 times 4x is 8x. And 2 times negative 7 is negative 14. So then I'm going to replace that in my problem. So I'm going to have 5x minus 2 minus 12x squared. I have to add my like terms of 8x and negative 21 together to get negative 13x minus 14. Now I look at my number in front of my parentheses here. My number in front of my parentheses is negative 1. So I'm going to have to distribute negative 1 to each thing in parentheses. The only time you don't have to distribute is if you have a positive 1. So I'm going to multiply negative 1 times 12x squared, which is going to give me negative 12x squared. Then I'm going to multiply negative 1 times negative 13, which is positive 13x. And negative 1 times negative 14, which is positive 14. My next step is to look for like terms. I always start with my highest exponent, so my highest exponent is negative 12x squared. There is not a like term with negative 12x squared, so I'm just going to write negative 12x squared in my answer. My next exponent is going to be x. 5x has a like term of 13x. So when I add those together, I get 18x. And then finally, I have negative 2 and I have 14. When I add those together, I get positive 12. So my answer is going to be negative 12x squared plus 18x plus 12. The next example we're going to look at is 3x minus 3 squared minus 9x squared minus 9. So again, my first step here is going to be to deal with what's in parentheses, and that in this case it's squared. So since it's squared, I'm going to write it twice because I have a binomial multiplied by I have a binomial inside my parentheses, and I can't distribute if I have a binomial, only if I have a monomial of one term. Since I'm multiplying a binomial times a binomial, I'm going to use the box. So I'm going to multiply 3x minus 3, 3x minus 3. 3x times 3x is going to be 9x squared. 3x times negative 3 is negative 9x. Negative 3 times 3x is negative 9x. And negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. So I have 9x squared. I add my like terms together of negative 9 and negative 9 to make negative 18x plus 9 minus 9x squared minus 9. I look at my number in front of my parentheses. It's just a positive 1, so I don't have to distribute it. So my next step is to look for like terms. Like terms are the same variable with the same exponent. So I look at my highest exponent of 9x squared. My like term is negative 9x squared. So 9 plus negative 9 is 0, so I don't have an x squared term. Then I have negative 18x. I do not have a like term with negative 18x, so I'm just going to write negative 18x in my answer. Then my last like term is going to be 9 and negative 9. When I add 9 plus 9, I get 0. So my answer on this problem is just going to be negative 18x. The final problem we're going to look at is 5x minus 2, parentheses 8x minus 3 times 4x plus 1. So my first step here is going to be to multiply 8x minus 3 times 4x plus 2. Since I'm multiplying two terms by two terms, I'm going to use the box. So I have 8x minus 3, and I have 4x plus 1. 4x times 8x is going to be 32x squared. 4x times negative 3 is negative 12x. 1 times 8x is going to be 8x, and 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. So when I write my answer, I'm going to still have my 5x minus 2 times, in parentheses, I'm going to have 32x squared. Add my like terms together of 8x and negative 12x, which makes negative 4x, minus 3. After I multiply using the box, then I look to see what my number is outside my parentheses. Since it's negative 2, I'm going to have to distribute the negative 2 to everything that's in parentheses. Negative 2 times 32x squared is negative 64x squared. Negative 2 times negative 4 is going to be 8x. And then negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. Then I look for like terms. I'm adding now. So I do not have a like term with negative 64x squared, so I'm just going to write negative 64x squared. Like term with 5x is 8x. 5x plus 8x is 13x. And I don't have a like term with 6, so I'm just going to add 6. So when we do these problems, there's basically three basic steps. If you have a binomial, you're going to write it twice, and it's squared, you're going to write it twice. You're going to multiply using the box. Then you're going to look to see if you need to distribute the number on the outside of your parentheses. You always have to distribute if it's something other than positive 1. And then your last step is to look for like terms.